Well, as we wrap things up on day one, I want to talk a little bit about how the war that is going to grip Europe is going to start. We talked about the Germans going into Czechoslovakia already, and now we're seeing them set their target or set their sights onto Poland. On the 1st of September of 1939, the Germans are going to roll across the border into Poland with over 1 million guys. The goal is to now, through pure force, take over Poland. This is the beginning of World War II, at least when we're talking about the Germans and how they're going to come into it. The Germans have far more guys than the Polish do, and the Polish guys are completely unprepared to fight a war like what the Germans are bringing to their doorstep. Because of this, you're going to see the Germans having the upper hand, and especially when they start unleashing what they called blitzkrieg or lightning war. What that meant, and you can see in the picture, the sheer number of tanks and other support vehicles of guys. Their goal is to strike fast. I don't know if you guys have ever been in a place where lightning strikes. Got to be in a setting up in Wisconsin. It was the summer of 2002 and was actually in a building that was struck by lightning. And when you feel the force of that and you see the speed that strikes, it's unmatched, it seems, in most of nature. And when you think about the Germans coming across the line, their goal is to strike hard and fast and to leave a swatch of destruction in their path. Within a month, they are going to have completely controlled Poland. The Polish do their best, but within a month, there's going to be a German flag flying in Poland. Now, you would think that the rest of Europe would stand up, would say, hey, this is our opportunity to push back. This is our moment to now defend not only Poland, but even ourselves. However, most of them just kind of watch it happen and kind of, you imagine like a fight beginning to break out. Most of the time, people don't jump in and pull people off because they're afraid they might be kind of a residual punishee of the one starting the fight. But in this moment, the rest of Europe just looks on and says, we're not going to get involved. I think in many ways they hope that the rest of the war wouldn't affect them, and they're trying to be as pacifistic as possible. But instead, they're setting the stage for what's going to happen during the rest of the war. One of the main areas that now, after he'd taken Czechoslovakia and Poland, that Hitler had said, I want to come after, is going to be France, another neighbor of his. The French had been building up, they had constructed this thing called the Maginot Line. It's a ton of tunnels that go way below ground, just hundreds of miles of this, where you're going to see there being above ground stuff, but also, as we'll see in a minute here, a cutaway where you're able to see just the levels that are going to go below ground. It's almost a little bit like a prairie dog or a gopher that's burrowed down. The French have gone underground, hoping to now be able to push Hitler back. The goal here is to be able to repel any advances that the Germans might bring. Instead of going head on against the Maginot Line, the Germans said, you know what, we're just going to go around it. We don't need to try to dig under it. We certainly don't need to try to take it full force. We're just going to go around it. And soon you're going to see the rest of France beginning to face the full onslaught of Germany. By the 13th of June, you're going to see the Germans having swooped into Paris. And basically, when they control Paris, they're going to control the rest of France as well. Paris had been the main seat of government, and we'll talk about kind of a puppet government that's going to happen in the south in just a minute. But overall, you're going to see that now being the end to France, at least for most of the war. There's going to be some limited resistance that will take place. Some Frenchmen go across the English Channel and are going to push back from England. Others tried to create an underground network in France, trying to now rebel against the lead of the Nazis. But overall, most of the French people are facing the fact that, at least for the duration of the war, they're going to be under the control of Germany. Here's a cutaway of the Maginot Line. You can see where there was storage for aircraft, there was storage for tanks, there was communications, there's going to be even hospital and medical supplies there. Overall, even this thing up at the right here, you can see a heavy artillery pillbox. That means like cannon, and to its right there is a machine gun. Overall, there's going to be a lot of opportunities for this to now, in theory, support the French in their fight against the Germans. But at the end of the day, the Germans just go right around it, and it doesn't do a whole lot. Even though they worked so hard to now develop this, in the end, it's just going to be an unnecessary thing. Pretty sad for the French. Well, like I said, what's left of the French government is going to be in the south, and it's going to be called the Vichy government, or the Vichy France. You can see the city there of Vichy down in the south, and from there you're going to see the government being in charge in theory, but in most aspects you're going to see them being a puppet government of the Germans. Essentially, they're going to be controlled by Hitler. They agreed to send thousands of their own citizens to Germany to work there, and this is going to basically be slave labor for the Germans. The saddest thing, though, in my mind, is the fact that they capitulated when it came to the Jewish people. Hitler said any Jewish people living in France now are going to go away, and the French government rolls over even on that. I think that a lot of the French, like what we've talked about, said if we can just basically go along with the program, hopefully it'll be easier on us. But at the end of the day, unfortunately, not only for the French, but as we're going to see for the rest of Europe, this will not be the case. Hey, as we come back, we'll begin to look a little bit more at what's happening in the rest of the war as it starts to tilt up. And then hopefully even by the end of the week, we'll see how we do on time. It might be that we're able to start looking a little bit at the Holocaust. We might save that for next week. We'll see how time works out. Hope you guys have a good rest of the day, and we'll see you next time.